In this video, we're going to have a look at how to install an SSL certificate on a WordPress website. This will mean that when people enter the web address for your website, instead of it coming up with HTTP and showing as being insecure, it will come up as HTTPS and show as a secure website. So the first thing we need to do is purchase our SSL certificate. Now I use Namecheap for this, and I use Namecheap for my domain names as well. There are lots and lots of companies you can use for this, but I'm going to show you how to do this with Namecheap. And so what I would do is go to Namecheap, which is namecheap.com, and then we want to look under security and then mouse down to SSL certificates. That then opens up this page here, and all we need to do is buy the cheapest one of these. As you see, there's lots of different prices here. There may be benefits for you going for a more expensive one if you want to look into that, but for me on my websites I've always used this basic one, which is Positive SSL. You can either buy it for 2 years, which is £6.10. Obviously that would be different depending on what country you're in. Or you can buy it for 1 year, which for me is £6.88 a year. So basically you'd simply go through and purchase that certificate. You'll need to have an account with Namecheap, which is free to open anyway. And as soon as you've purchased that, the SSL certificate will appear within your account in Namecheap. Now we're going to need to use that very shortly, but the next thing we're going to do after you've purchased your certificate is then go to the cPanel of your web host. So here I am within the cPanel of one of my web hosting accounts. To get to this, you will normally go to your domain name, so yourdomain.com/cPanel. Alternatively, to get to this, when you've signed up for your web hosting account, so whether that be with HostGator or whoever you've used for your hosting, they will actually send you an email, and within that will be details of how to access your cPanel. So there will be an address to get to it, as in a web address. There'll also be a username and a password. So you'll need to find that to be able to come here and log in and get to your cPanel. When you've done that, what we're going to do is come down the page until we find an area that says SSL TLS, and here it is, SSL TLS, and we want to click on there. We then come into here. We then want to click on where it says certificate signing requests, and we want to generate a new signing request, so we're going to click on here, and that brings us in to here. And what we then need to do is generate a new certificate signing request. So what we do is make sure from this drop down here it says generate a new 2048-bit key, just as it does there. We then need to enter in the domain name that you want your SSL certificate to be installed on. So that's just as in christolan.com. You then need to enter here the details of you and effectively where you live. I don't think there's any reason why these couldn't be anywhere, I suppose, but if, for example, city, I'll put mine, Burton-on-Trent, state, Staffordshire, country, GB, United Kingdom, and then a company name in there. If you haven't got one, you could just use your own name in there. Company division, I would actually just leave that blank because you don't need it. Email, you can just put your own email address in there. And then passphrase, you also don't need that, so you can leave that blank. And description, you can also leave blank. So all we'd then do is click generate. That goes to work and then comes with something that looks like this. And this is actually your certificate signing request. So it comes from there right through to there. So even the words that say begin certificate request and end certificate request, that is all part of it. So what we're going to do is actually right click and copy that entire certificate. So just copy that so that it's on your clipboard. You now, after you've copied that certificate, you need to come back to your Namecheap account and then sign in. So I'll just actually log into my account now. So once you've logged into your Namecheap account, you'll probably end up on the dashboard, but all you need to do, whichever page you are on, is come down the left hand side here and click on Product List, and that will bring you into a page here that lists your SSL certificates. Now, if you've just purchased one, it will appear in the list here. And all you'll need to do, on the right hand side there will be a button that says Activate. Now for me, I'm actually renewing an SSL certificate, so this is one that I've actually had on my website for over a year now, and I'm renewing it, so I need to go somewhere different. But I'll go in there now, but it will still be exactly the same that you'll see. All that will happen is it will be listed here and you'll click Activate. So let me go into where mine is now. So as you see, I've come in to manage that particular domain name here, and I've got the same thing. This is exactly what you'd see on the product list page. I've got this saying I've got a positive SSL certificate. This one for me is a new renewal, but yours will sit there like that. And on the right hand side, there will be a button that says Activate. So all we need to do is click that button. That then comes up with a page that looks like this. Now yours, if you've not used it on a domain before, it won't have a domain name in the bottom here. That will be blank, but don't worry about that at all, because that will be entered automatically when we actually paste the certificate in there. So all we're going to do now is click in this box and then paste the certificate that we copied from within our cPanel. And that, as you see, that is the whole certificate there. So it starts with begin certificate request and ends at the very bottom with end certificate request. It's all in there. When you enter that, your domain name will now appear in this box here. So what we then do is press the next button. You then get to this page here, and it will show you again the domain that is being secured, because that's come from your certificate. That is fine there. Then at this section here, it says check if we got your server right, and there's either a button for Windows or any other server. We want any other server to be clicked, and then again we go to next. That brings us to step 3, and here we need to confirm that we actually own the domain name that we're talking about. And so there are a few methods that you can use to actually confirm it. As you see, if you click down here, there's email, there's HTTP based, and there's DNS based. Now to me, the very easiest is the email option. So I'll leave that tick there. And then underneath, there will be, again in a drop-down box, a number of options that you have for an email that they will send the confirmation to. And you won't get a choice on these. There will be certain ones that are set in there. And so you need to choose one of those, but you can only choose it if you actually have that email address. But there's actually an easy way around this. If you don't have one of these, because most people, like if you're like me, I've got chris@christoland.com set up on mine, and I haven't got any of these. So the way around it is this. What you could do is choose one, say for example webmaster@christoland.com. What we're then going to do is go back into our cPanel again for our website. So let me come back again into cPanel. There we go. And I'm at the main, so if I click on cPanel there, I'm at the main home page for my cPanel. Now this time, what we want to do is come down to the email section and look for forwarders. And we click on forwarders. We then want to click on add forwarder, not add domain forwarder, but add forwarder. We click on there. Then what we want to do here is enter the first part of the email address that we just selected. So going back again, let me just have a quick look at Namecheap. We're looking for webmaster@christoland.com. So in cPanel, what we want to do here is type in webmaster. So just like that, typed in webmaster, and the rest of it is automatic because it's there saying webmaster, there's the @ symbol, christoland.com. So that's the email address that we're setting up as a forwarder. And what you're then doing is saying, I want it to forward to this email address. And this wants to be just your normal email address, any email address that will get to you. So for me, for example, I can just use my normal Gmail address. And then what I do is simply click Add Forwarder. And what it says, as you see here, all email now sent to webmaster@christolan.com will now be copied to my Gmail account, so will be sent to me. So what that means is now I can come back again into Namecheap. So what we're saying now is we've got to confirm the domain. We're confirming it by email, and basically Namecheap, or actually the SSL Certificate company, will send an email to webmaster@christolan.com, and we've now set that up, and so we know that will actually work properly. So what I can do is click Next. And it then says also when the SSL file is completed, where do you want that sending to? So this time you can actually choose and type in your own email address. So like with me, I can just use my Gmail address. So then I'm going to click Next. And then it says the SSL certificate will be sent to that email address. The domain secured and DCV method will be christolan.com, and it's sending the email to that address. So that's all exactly as we want it to be. So what we're then going to do is just click Submit. And that comes up with this here, basically saying that has been sent. For our next step, you now need to go into your email account. So this is the email account where you set up your forwarder in your cPanel. So for me, it was my normal Gmail account. And you need to wait for an email to actually arrive that will look something like this. So for me, it said it was from Sectigo's Certification Authority, and it looks like this. So this is the certificate validation email. And to actually validate this, you need to do two things. Firstly, there is a code here, and you need to copy that code. And then we need to click where it says, please browse here. We click on there, it will open up a window. We need to come into that window and actually paste that code that we have just copied. And then we need to click Next. And that says, thank you, you've entered the correct domain control validation code, and your certificate will now be issued. So you can now close that window, and you can now, this email is now finished with. That's all you need to do with that one. So you now need to wait until you get another email, and this email will actually be the certificate. So we now need to wait for that to arrive. So when you've waited and that email has arrived, it will look very similar to the last email that you received, but this one actually says your positive SSL certificate for your domain name is attached. And this email can take a while to come through sometimes, but this time it only took a couple of minutes before I received this one, but it could take a little bit longer. But when you've received that, your actual certificate will be in the email itself. So if you come down, there is the certificate. So we need to again copy this. So we need to remember the words end certificate need to be included. So all of that coming right up the top here to what says begin certificate. So you need all that included, and then we're going to copy it. And now, surprise, surprise, we're going back to your cPanel again. So you need to again come into cPanel, and again we're going to come down here until we find the SSL TLS, and we're going to click on there again. But this time we need to go for install and manage SSL for your site. So we want to click on here where it says manage SSL sites. And that brings us into here. Now yours may look slightly different to mine, because here you'll see some of these, there are green things and red things in here. Yours may not have that because of course I'm renewing this certificate rather than it being a new one. So yours may just be blank here, but don't worry about that. All you need to do is come down to here where it says install an SSL website. Whoops, let me come down again. There we go. And then it says browse certificates. And all we need to do is look where it says domain and select a domain. You need to click on there and find your domain name here and click on it. Next, we want to click in this box here that says certificate, and then we're going to paste the certificate that we've just copied from our email. So we're going to paste the whole thing in there, and as you'll see, it starts with begin certificate, finishes with end certificate. That's all you want in there. What we're then going to do is click on the button here that says autofill by certificate. So we click on there. It then does some work, and it then fills in all of these sections underneath, which is exactly what we want it to do. And then the only other thing we need to do is click on Install Certificate. And there we go. It now says you have successfully updated the SSL website's certificate. Now yours may just say you've installed it. And we've got ticks there, and it says successfully updated or successfully installed. That's all we need to do, so you can click on OK. So from the cPanel side of things, that is now all you need to do. We now need to log into your WordPress dashboard, so your website WordPress login, and we need to just do a little bit of work in there, but we are now nearly finished. So once you've logged in to your WordPress dashboard, so I'm actually in my admin side of my WordPress site, you want to come down here to plugins and then add new. So that brings you to this page here, which is where you add plugins. And what we're going to do on the right hand side here, we're going to do a search. And the thing you need to search for is really simple SSL. So do a search there, really simple SSL. This should come up automatically. And there is this plugin here. It's completely free, and it's very simple to operate and very simple to install. So when that has arrived there, now I've already got this on my site, so it says active, but just as like this one here, yours will say install now. So all you do is click the button to say install now. When that is installed, it will then, this button will change to actually say activate. And all you do is then click on that button to activate this plugin. Then, as soon as you've activated the plugin, you'll get a message coming up at the top of the page here, which says almost ready to migrate to SSL. And there's a bit of blurb there, and then there's a button that says go ahead, activate SSL. Now, with me, that just arrived at the top of the page as soon as I activated. If for any reason it doesn't with you, what you can do is actually come down to plugins and installed plugins, and I'm actually here on the installed plugins page. There's my other installed plugins, and it appears at the very top of that page. So all I now do is click go ahead, activate SSL, and that is all there is to it. And what should happen now on your website, this actually may at this point log you out of your site, and you may have to actually log back in again. But if I actually just bring this down a little bit here, what you should actually see is when it shows your website, this padlock should be closed. If it is open, then the SSL hasn't actually taken effect yet, but it should actually show as a closed padlock. And in fact, if you click on that, it should then say your information is private when it is sent to this site, and your connection is secure. So that's exactly what we want. So that is it. You have now purchased, installed and activated your SSL license, and that will now stay in effect for, well, whether it was a year or 2 years, whichever you purchased. So I hope that is useful to you, and you've now got a secured site with your SSL certificate.